Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel.
Hey everyone, welcome. First of all, a happy Mother's Day to all the hardworking mums out there, and I almost said murder mums out there if you're listening to the podcast. Welcome and happy Mother's Day. I hope you're all being spoiled. Hope you're all being spoiled rotten. And look, guys, it's good to be back. Welcome to Coffee with Foul Play. Now, today's episode, I want to warn everybody, it's entitled Teresa's RAV4 and the Day Planner. And of course, anything to do with RAV4 or the Day Planner, of course, is extremely controversial, but we'll see what we can do in today's episode. Look, welcome, beautiful people. My name is Dr. Silkman. And if you're following this in MAM 2, this is episode 9. And what I found and what also Neverly found was that episode 9 is jam-packed full of information. And this is only part of episode number 9. I'll be doing episode 9 part B next podcast because there was just so much information there. Well, look, guys, joining me today on our podcast, we have our regular researchers. We have BB, Big Jeff, Jack61, Kelly, Millbilly, and Neverly. And joining me on chat, and these guys will be monitoring your questions. So, guys, feel free, write down your questions, and we'll try and answer them during the podcast the best that we can. We have Catnip, we have Sammy, and we have Zoe. And thank you very much, guys, for checking the chat on YouTube. And I'm delighted to present our two guest researchers. We have Justin L., and we also have Tintin87, who we had the pleasure of meeting last week. So, guys, before we start the podcast proper, I'd like to invite Justin L. To say a few words, what got you interested in these cases, and what type of areas that you specialize in looking at the Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey cases. Justin L.
Just want to take a moment and say thank you all for inviting me to come on this morning.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, I got started with MAM about 6 months ago. Got hooked, started following everybody on YouTube and found Foul Play, and here we are.
Awesome. Are there any particular areas that you're more interested in, Justin L., or just an overall appreciation of both cases?
Right now, it's just an overall appreciation of everything and diving into anything new that comes up.
Awesome. Well, you've certainly found the right place, Justin L. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We all do. And guys, before we start the podcast, just to let you know that on our YouTube channel, we have many episodes of Coffee with Foul Play. We've looked at both MAM 1. We've done all of MAM 1. We've looked at both Stephen and Brendan Dassey in quite close detail, and we've had many, many good discussions on that. And at the moment, we're going through MAM 2. We've also have on our channel Susan and also Jack61, who are doing a marvelous job with the Avery case file readings, and it's awesome. You can follow the transcripts of the cases and get a really good appreciation of what went down. We also have the superb Powder Puff team who tackle and challenge our listeners to many different topics, not only those regarding Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey, but all sorts of topics. And today the team discussed the autopsy report, which was awesome. We also have Thirsty for Theory Thursday. That's a real tongue twister. And that also looks at some specialized topics. And I know that Big Jeff has done some excellent presentations, especially on the mobile phone and other topics as well. And we also have over or close to 1,000 phone calls from Stephen Avery to his family. If you've got time, have a listen because they're really, really riveting. And guys, at the moment, we have 968 subscribers, and that is absolutely awesome. We're about 8 months, and I have a really, really strong team, a very passionate team, and I'm very, very proud of all the hard work that they do. And guys, we appreciate you coming on and listening to us. If you like what we do, please subscribe, hit the like button, and give us some feedback, and we'll try and go over your feedback. We take it very, very seriously. And we're very lucky. There are many excellent YouTubers, for example, Millbilly, Linda Kay, Eric Cozy, Andrew. There are many excellent YouTubers. Please check out their channels. They've got some really, really good work. All right, awesome. And just finally, if you have some, please check out our website, our Foul Play website, where it contains a plethora of documents and videos all about the cases, and we hope that you find them really informative. All right, guys, before we start the podcast proper, does anybody have any comments? Have I missed anything out? Right, we're all good to go. All right, guys. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the podcast. Let's have a look at slide number 1. Now, certain things happened on the Avery salvage yard, and they occurred at night time. 2 strange and rather bizarre events. On Thursday night, which was November the 3rd, both Stephen and his brother Chuck, they were going to Menards. And what happened was, when they were at the end of Avery Road down their driveway, Stephen had noticed tail lights near his trailer. And this was rather odd, being at night time. So both Stephen and Chuck, they turned around to go back and investigate the lights, the tail lights that Stephen had seen. Nothing was found. Now, another important event occurred on that night. And that's when Stephen had recut open his right middle finger and he bled profusely. He bled inside his own Pontiac Grand Dam, and he went inside his trailer and he also bled in his sink as well. He put on a bandage, and both him and his brother went off to Menards. So they found nothing. They came back to investigate the tail lights, but they did not find anything. Well, also on November the 4th, which was a Friday, Chuck Avery, he was going to Marinette County. And what he did, he actually noticed headlights that were near his trailer. So what he did was he phoned his brother Stephen, and he asked him to go and investigate the lights, the headlights that he had seen near his trailer. And so what happened was, both Stephen and Bobby, they went to investigate the lights that were around Chucky's trailer. Again, nothing was found. So it's very interesting that on 2 nights, on the Thursday and on the Friday, both Stephen and Chuck had noticed that there obviously must have been someone driving around the Avery salvage yard at night time. Now remember, this is past closing hour. There shouldn't have been anybody there. So that was rather interesting and mysterious. So guys, let's have a look at slide number 2. Now, quite clearly, Chuck Avery wrote a statement of what he seen. So this is an official statement which he dictated out, and he wrote what he had observed. So in other words, it really backs up what he was saying. So if we have a look at slide number 3, This is very important. Well, Detective Anthony O'Neill was questioning Stephen, and he was talking about the lights that he saw and also his brother saw. Now, what's important here is the fact that the telephone conversation was recorded, right? It was a cell phone record because Chucky had phoned up Stephen on his mobile phone. So there's a phone record. So you can see the date of the 4th of November, but most importantly, look at the time, 7:22 in the evening. So remember that time, that's very important. So, in other words, both Stephen and Chucky had backup to what they were saying in either the report or talking with Anthony O'Neill. So, let's have a look at slide number 4. We can now build up a bit of a timeline. Now, we know that Teresa Hallbach was called by Stephen to come to the Avery salvage yard on October the 31st, which was Halloween. And she was there to photograph Barb Yunder's minivan. Also, on October 31st was the last day that anyone had seen, allegedly, Teresa Hallbach. We note that on November the 3rd, which was the Thursday, Stephen had noted tail lights by his trailer. When they went to investigate, nothing was found. On the Friday, which was November the 4th, Chucky sees headlights near his trailer. When Stephen and Bobby went to investigate, nothing was found. Now, the other important thing is this. On November the 4th, that's when a flyover was done over the Avery salvage yard. And in the aeroplane, they were obviously looking for Teresa and her RAV4. Now, in that aeroplane, there was Pagel and Wendy Baldwin, and they wrote a report in CASO, and they did not see a Toyota RAV4 in the Avery salvage yard or surrounding areas. And guys, of course, we know that on November the 5th, which was the Saturday, Pam and Nicole Sturm, they found the Toyota RAV4, allegedly that belonged to Teresa Hallbach, in the Avery salvage yard. So the question is this: who was actually driving around the Avery salvage yard at night time on the 3rd and the 4th of November? All right, guys, so that's a bit of a mystery. So let's have a look at slide number 5. Well, this is very, very interesting. And this occurred much later in the piece because Kevin Ramlow had actually spoken with Kathleen Zellner. And Kevin Ramlow was a truck driver, and he was driving on 147. This was November the 3rd, 2005. And he spotted a Toyota RAV4 on 147. And the location of the RAV4 was at East Twin River Dam at the turnabout, the bridge. Kevin Ramlow stated, and I quote, "It was a teal green color and it was a RAV." Right, so that's very, very interesting. So Kathleen Zellner and her team obviously went down to the East Twin River at the turnabout and took photographs. What Kevin Ramlow stated was that the Toyota RAV4 was nose in, pointing west. So that was very interesting because it appeared that someone had dumped the RAV4 at the turnabout. So that was a very interesting observation. So guys, let's have a look at slide number 6. Well, Kevin Ramlow, on November the 4th, the day after, he stopped to buy gas at the Scenic station. And what he noticed was on the outside of the Scenic station were missing girl posters, women posters of Teresa Hallbach. And he obviously read them because he read the description of the vehicle that belonged to Teresa Hallbach. And it was, and I quote, a dark green 1999 Toyota RAV4. And it's interesting that Kevin Ramlow stated, and I quote, I had seen the vehicle down by that tree. So he equated the RAV4 that he saw at the turnabout with Teresa's vehicle. So let's have a look at slide number 7. Well, lo and behold, when he was in the store at the gas station, in walked a Manitowoc officer in the shop. He told, Kevin Ramlow told the Manitowoc officer that he had seen the vehicle that was on the missing poster down the road. And of course, if you try and find any records of this conversation, you won't find one. So apparently, no police report had been written up. That is, Kevin Ramlow telling the Manitowoc officer that he'd seen the vehicle just down the road. And this is very interesting because, and I asked the question, where have we seen this before? In other words, somebody reports something and a police report is not written, or it's written years down the track, right? So I think you guys all know where I'm trying to go with this one. So Kathleen Zellner has now will be using this as a Brady violation. And the particular Brady violation is as follows, and I quote, there was no report documenting witness spotting RAV off Avery property. Now, quite clearly, if you go with the state's case, the state alleges that Stephen Avery and, of course, Brendan Dassey, they murdered Teresa Hallbach, and both Teresa and her Toyota RAV4 never left the Avery salvage yard. Well, according to Kevin Ramlow, he spotted a greenish, teal-coloured RAV4 at the turnabout on 147. So that's potentially a very significant observation. So let's have a look at slide 8. And the obvious question is this: was the Manitowoc officer indeed Sergeant Andrew Colburn? Well, lo and behold, when Kevin Ramlow watched Making a Murderer, I quote, this was when Making a Murderer, Man 1 was shown years down the track. Kevin Ramlow stated, and I quote, I realised that was the guy that I told about her car. And of course, he was referring to Sergeant Andrew Colburn. Now, of course, this is controversial because apparently he wasn't meant to be working that particular day, right? So we have to be a little bit cautious here. But Kevin Ramlow had recognized Sergeant Andrew Colburn. And it's very interesting, guys, and we've gone over this. The defense team were very bewildered when Colburn called in the plates to dispatch, and he was asked by Dean Strang, question, were you looking at these plates when you called them in? And Andrew Colburn said, no, sir. But you could tell he was rattled and he cracked his nails. He looked very, very nervous. So potentially here we have a witness in Kevin Ramlow recognizing Sergeant Andrew Colburn, and he told him about the RAV that he spotted down the road. So guys, let's have a look at slide number 9. Well, if this case was weird enough, it just gotten a little bit more weirder. What Kevin Ramlow did, he actually sent 2 text messages to, guess who? Scott Tadich. It just so happened that Kevin Ramlow knew Scott and his brother. So he knew of Scott Tadich. And so Kevin Ramlow sent Scott Tadich 2 text messages about what he saw on Making a Murderer. And I quote, He goes, I just watched the series Making a Murderer, and I got to tell you, I need to get in touch with one of their lawyers as Colburn. I saw Art Senex and told him that vehicle was at the old dam on a Thursday or Friday. Scott Tadich didn't respond. So Kevin Ramler sent him another text and he said, hey, give me a call. And Scott Tadich finally responded and said, I quote, okay, I will. I am really sick now, can hardly talk, so I'll call you tomorrow, which was very interesting. But apparently, according to Kevin, Scott Tadich never returned the call. So that was very, very interesting. Now, Kevin Ramlow actually prepared an affidavit for Kathleen Zellner. And let's have a look at slide number 10. And there's no need to go through this because his affidavit, which was lodged, of course, talked about all the main points that we have just covered. So we have an official document here, an affidavit from Kevin Ramlow. Okay, so the weird things kept on happening. Let's have a look at slide number 11. It just so happened that Scott Tadich lived very close to where the actual RAV4 was abandoned. And you can see here on the left-hand side, Scott Tadich's trailer and where the RAV4 was spotted. They are in fairly close proximity to one another. And if you remember from the trial testimonies, Bobby Dassey on the 31st of October was going deer hunting behind Scott Tadich's trailer, right? So that's very interesting because not only do we have Scott Tadich's trailer close to where the RAV4 was spotted, we have Bobby Dassey apparently or allegedly going hunting deer behind Scott Tadich's trailer. What's remarkable is that after Teresa Halbach was murdered, I'm not sure of the exact day when this occurred, but Scott Tadich bought a new house. And it just so happened again to be very close to where the RAV4 was spotted that day by Kevin Ramlow. And of course, Scott Tadich married Barb Yunder. And of course, Scott Tadich is the stepdad of Brendan Dassey, who's in prison for life for allegedly raping, torturing, murdering, and burning Teresa Halbach. So it's extremely weird situation. So guys, let's have a look at slide number 12. Well, boy, things really did get weird. And that is, Scott Tadich actually observed Bobby Dassey on 147 on October the 31st. And this was discussed in the trial, in the Stephen Avery trial. And I quote, this is Ken Kratz. Could you tell the jury who you saw on the roadway before 3 that afternoon? Answer, I saw Bobby Dassey on Highway 147. Question, which way were you going and which way was Bobby going, if you recall? Answer, I was going west and he was going east. So everything seems to be happening on 147. And you can see the proximity of where the RAV4 was spotted by Kevin Ramlow and where the Avery salvage yard was located. Now, if Kevin Ramlow actually did see Teresa's Toyota RAV4, it meant that the RAV4 was off the Avery salvage yard, right? And the state was saying that the Teresa and her Toyota RAV4 never left the Avery salvage yard. This is a significant observation. So guys, let's have a look at slide number 13. Well, this got really weird now. So Scott Tadich was questioned further about this. And this is Dean Strang in the Stephen Avery trial. And I quote, and so you pass each other and you are later able to tell the police that Bobby was going deer hunting? Yes. How did you know that? Answer: how do I know that? Is because Bobby Dassey was going to the trailer where I live to hunt behind it. Question: let me understand. He's going to hunt deer right behind your trailer? Answer: yes. Question: but don't you hunt deer right behind your trailer? Answer: occasionally, yes. Question: and when did he tell you about this hunting trip that he planned right behind your trailer? Answer: I don't recall him telling me. He had permission from the landlord to hunt there. Question: so you figured since you saw him driving east on Highway 147, he must be going hunting? Answer: yes. Question: anybody else see you going west on 147 to go hunting so far as you know? Answer: Bobby Dassey. So note, Scott and Bobby alibi each other, which is very, very interesting. Okay, so let's have a look at slide number 14. And as I said to you before, there's a huge problem. And the question being asked is this: how did the Toyota RAV4 end up on the Avery salvage yard? Because if Kevin Ramlow had spotted Teresa Hallbuck's RAV4 on Thursday, November the 3rd, how did it actually get on the Avery salvage yard on Saturday, November the 5th, which of course was found by Pam and Nicole Sturm? And it's very interesting that Kathleen Zellner made the comment. She said, the killer or killers benefited with the cops wanting to frame Stephen Avery. In other words, the investigators were not really interested at all in any potential sightings of a Toyota RAV4 anywhere else, except, of course, on the Avery salvage yard, which was very, very interesting. This is your classic tunnel vision. So, guys, let's have a look at slide number 15. And if we have a look at the narrative here, we know that Kevin Ramlow had spotted a RAV4 on November the 3rd. On November the 4th, Kevin Ramlow tells, let's assume that it's Andy Colburn, about the RAV4. And Colburn calls in the plates. Now, we also know that the day after, the Toyota RAV4 is found at the Avery salvage yard. And it's very interesting because, and I put it here again, because Colburn was asked, and I quote, were you looking at these plates when you called them in? Answer: no, sir. And Kathleen Zellner had made the remark, isn't it ironic it is the same cop? So, yeah, we know all about Andy Colburn, and the fact that he takes a real long time to write reports. And he clearly had not followed this up and written a report of what Kevin Ramlow had said to him, if indeed it was Andrew Colburn, right? But it seems very, very coincidental that it was Colburn who called in the plates. And he denied being in front of the Toyota RAV4 when he did so. Okay, guys, let's have a look at slide number 16. Now, this truly is bizarre. And we're looking at Ryan Hillegas. And so what Kathleen Zellner did was obtain his phone records. And what was discovered was on November, note the date, on November the 4th, Ryan Hillegas had received 22 incoming no-call ID calls within a 5-hour time span. And Kathleen Zellner had inquired with the phone company, what type of potential calls can these be? And the company director, I think, said it's likely from law enforcement. So he had 22 short calls that only lasted a few minutes each, 22 of them on the 4th of November. Now, notice the last call on the 4th of November was at 7:25 p.m. Lo and behold, Chuck Avery calls his brother Stephen at 7:22 p.m. on the Friday, November the 4th. And he said that, hey, there are headlights near my place. So are the two events related, right? A very, very interesting timing wise. All right, guys, let's have a look at slide number 17. The question that Kathleen Zona asked was this: did Ryan Hillegas actually plant the RAV4 on the Avery salvage yard? And was law enforcement guiding him to bring the car from the quarry area onto the Avery salvage yard? Now, of course, yes, that's very controversial. What Kathleen Zona and her team found was when she was in the quarry on her mobile phone, it continuously dropped out. That's precisely what appeared to be happening with Ryan Hillegas's phone, because he kept on getting fresh calls all the time. Now, why is that important? Why would you want to plant the RAV4 on the salvage yard? And the answer is very, very simple. It's because the law enforcement need a probable cause. They need a probable cause to get on the property with search warrants, right? And as we know, the Toyota RAV4 was indeed found at the Avery salvage yard on November the 5th by Pam and Nicole Stone. All right, guys, let's have a look at slide number 18. Well, we know that once the Toyota RAV4 was found, clearly no one found Teresa Horbach anywhere. That allowed the law enforcement to write up search warrants, and a lot of people descended on the Avery salvage yard. And we have the records of the people that logged in and logged out. There were many people, and I think altogether there were at least 2 district attorneys that were at the Avery salvage yard. They all descended on the Avery salvage yard very, very quickly. So finding that RAV4 was pivotal in the law enforcement serving search warrants. So let's have a look at slide number 19. Now, again, something really weird happened, and I'll read it out to you. I quote, on the morning of Saturday, November the 5th, hours before Teresa's RAV4 is found, Calumet County Detective Mark Wiegert calls Manitowoc County Detective Dave Remaker, and it's recorded. And Wiegert said, I quote, the boss has got something he wants us to do, okay? And one of the things he wanted them to do was to re-interview Avery again. The sole purpose of that was to, and I quote, allow the search party to come onto the property, right? So you can see the Avery salvage yard is huge. It's 40 acres, and I believe at the time there were around about 3,000 vehicles. And you can see part of the search contingency, there were people everywhere looking for, obviously, Teresa and her vehicle as well. So it's pretty obvious that law enforcement were desperate to get onto that property. Well, let's have a look at slide 20. We're nearly done, guys. And I quote, on Saturday, November the 5th, while Stephen and his family are at their cabin in Crivets, 96 miles north of the salvage yard, Stephen's brother Earl is running the business. Now, Earl gives volunteer searchers, Pam and Nicole Stern, permission to search the yard. And lo and behold, within, I think, 20 minutes, they found Teresa Horbach's, allegedly found Teresa Horbach's Toyota RAV4. And Pam was questioned about this. And I quote, looking at it now, do you think you got lucky? Answer, yeah. Well, not lucky. God showed us the way. I do believe that. And if you have a look at the salvage yard, a salvage yard there were around about 3,000 vehicles. And both her and her daughter found the Toyota RAV4 in world record time. They basically went directly towards it. That to me is highly suggestive that they knew where that Toyota RAV4 was. And remember, on November the 4th, there was the flyover, and the flyover could well have been to plan where to place the Toyota RAV4. And this looks really suspicious now with Ryan Hillegas and his 22 short dropped calls. So maybe they are all related to one another. And remember, Pam Sturm, she was late to see Ryan, and Ryan gave her a map, a camera, and the direct phone number to Sheriff Pagel, which was very, very interesting. So, guys, let's have a look at slide 21, and we can go over this quite quickly. So, they obviously found the Toyota RAV4, and we're not going to talk about colors because colors are too controversial. Apparently, Pam Sturm, when she saw the Toyota RAV4, was actually quite surprised. And the reason why she was surprised is because she was expecting to see and find a dark green RAV4 that was written on the poster. Lo and behold, this RAV4 at the salvage yard was not dark green. It was a bluish, a greenish bluish color, and she was actually quite surprised. Well, Nicole, I believe it was Nicole, had taken 6 photographs of the Toyota RAV4. So let's have a look at slide number 22. And you can see that these were the 2 additional slides, pictures that were taken. And clearly on the back of the RAV4, there's this big sign that says Toyota RAV4. Remember, Sheriff Pagel and Wendy Baldwin, when they did the flyover one day before, they never saw that vehicle. They kept very, very quiet. They never saw the vehicle on the salvage yard, which is very, very interesting. Now, I quote, "And you said that Ryan, when you met on Saturday morning, Ryan Hillegas gave you a direct phone number for Sheriff Pagel." Answer, yes. Now, I'm not sure whether Ryan Hillegas gave a camera, a map, and a direct number to Sheriff Pagel to every searcher. This seems to me highly suspicious that Ryan Hillegas knew that the RAV4 was on the property, and law enforcement just needed a signal that, yes, Teresa's RAV4 has been found. Because, of course, we know, guys, that Pam rang up Sheriff Pagel, spoke to him, I believe, and also to Mark Uyghur to confirm the VIN number of the Toyota RAV4. All right, so guys, let's have a look at slide number 23. This is very interesting because Kathleen Zellner believes that Ryan Hillegas planted some of the evidence, that is the Toyota RAV4, on the Avery salvage yard. And to become a Denny suspect, you need to have 3 criteria: motive, opportunity, and a direct link to the crime. Now, the interesting thing, guys, if you've been following our MAM episodes, Ryan Hillegas was the one that made up the story or gave out the story about the broken blinker light and that Teresa Horbach had filed an insurance claim. Well, clearly that cannot be the case. She never filed an insurance claim for a broken blinker. Yet, how did Ryan know about this? So Ryan directly connected himself to the Toyota RAV4 and the broken blinker light, which was very, very interesting. Now, Kathleen Zellner stated, and I quote, "Mr. Hillegas is still on our list." So she's very suspicious of Ryan Hillegas. Of course, Ryan was Teresa's ex-boyfriend. All right, now, guys, we're going to come to our final part of the presentation, and that is we're going to talk about Teresa Horbach's day planner. Now, this is extremely controversial. All right, guys, so let's have a look at slide number 24. So, Tom Fassbender wrote a report, And in that report, there was the following statement. And that is, Tom Fassbender spoke to several people who were at Teresa Horbach's house. This is where she stayed. She was staying with her roommate, Scott Blowdorn. And Ryan Hillegas went there too. And I quote, Hillegas said he had found a schedule of Horbach's for the week of October 31. And we can see here, guys, the full day planner for that week. So what Teresa Horbach would have done, she would have printed it out from a computer and then taken it with her and written notes, basically what her appointments were. And so Kathleen Zellner was able to look at all the writing that was done on the day planner. And she had done some very fine investigative reporting and analysis. So guys, let's have a look at slide 25. This is the story of Denise Coakley. And what Kathleen Zellner noted was Denise's name was written down on the day planner. So she obtained Teresa Horbach's phone records. Lo and behold, there is a call on the 31st of October at 11:35 a.m. Now, Kathleen Zellner obviously spoke with Denise Coakley, and she said in an affidavit that Denise had spoken with Teresa Horbach at 11:35 a.m., matching the phone record. And what Denise wanted to do was to schedule an appointment for the following day, which would have been the Tuesday, because you can see Denise noon, and it would have been on the Tuesday. But critical was this. Denise said that Teresa had to pull on the side of the road so she can write the appointment down. That was critical. And the reason why it was critical, it meant that Teresa Horbach had to have had her day planner in her car when she spoke to Denise Coakley. So that day planner was with Teresa Horbach. It wasn't at home. It was in Teresa Horbach's hand, and she wrote the appointment of Denise Coakley directly on the day planner. So that's one. But there was another one. Let's have a look at slide number 26. And this is about an appointment for Steve Speckman, right, who was in the Sheboygan area. And he wanted to have two vehicles photographed by Teresa. And so, again, by checking the phone records, there was a call at 12:44. And that call at 12:44 p.m. was from Steve Speckman. And he states in an affidavit, and I'll read it out, during our conversation on October the 31st, 2005, Teresa told me that she was currently in the Sheboygan area handling other appointments in and around Sheboygan. Why is this critical? Guys, this is critical because at 12:44 p.m., Teresa Horbach had her day planner in her car when she spoke with Steve Speckman, right? So the day planner was with Teresa Horbach. It wasn't at home. It was in her car. So guys, let's have a look. We're nearly finished, guys. Let's have a look at slide 27. So this is a summary, and note it's an estimate. We can't get perfect timing of where Teresa Horbach was. It's basically an estimate. But here's the important thing. Teresa Horbach spoke with Denise Coakley at 11:35 a.m. She also spoke with Steve Speckman at 12:44 p.m. Teresa was on the road, and in her car, she had her day planner because she wrote notes. We know that she arrived at the Schmitz at between 1:30 and 1:45 p.m. And this is written up in CASO on page 6. But guys, here's the critical question. Did Teresa Horbach have the day planner with her in her car, or did she leave it at home? In other words, after she had spoken with Denise and Steve, did Teresa Horbach go home, drop off the day planner, and then go all the way to the Schmidt's photo shoot. That is significant because if she went all the way home, dropped off the day planner, that means that Ryan Hillegas having a copy of that day planner is non-nefarious. He just simply found it on her desk. However, if Teresa Horbach had the day planner in her vehicle when she went to see the Schmidts for a photo shoot, the Zipperers for a photo shoot between 12:15 and 2:25, so that's 2:15 and 2:25 p.m., and then finally at the Stephen Avery property at 2:31 p.m. Now remember, that time is fairly accurate because there's a cell tower ping, right? So plus she checked her phone records. So if Teresa Horbach had her day planner with her, how was Ryan Hillegas going to explain how he got that day planner from Teresa Horbach's car, right? So here's the problem. Why would Teresa Horbach take the day planner all the way home only to go out on photo shoots because she used the day planner to write down notes just in case someone rang her up for a new photo shoot? So also, Kathleen Zona worked out that timing-wise, Teresa Horbach didn't have enough time to go home, drop off the day planner, and then go to the Schmidts to do the photo shoots, etc., etc. So that's very, very interesting, but highly controversial. So, guys, our last slide for this presentation, and I love this one. Well, Kathleen Zona picked up the day planner, a copy of the day planner, and said, how does Ryan Hillegas get this piece of paper? And that piece of paper is the day planner with Teresa Horbach's writing on it. And what is interesting here, guys, is that Kathleen Zona has tried to approach Ryan Hillegas, and he refuses to talk to her. Which, again, all he had to do was talk to her to clear his name, but he has refused to talk with Kathleen Zona. All right, guys, full of controversy. Let's open it up to the panel, guys. Do we have any questions? Who'd like to go first? Bibi.
Questions in the chat.
I believe
I could
Sammy,
imagine.
I believe Sammy has a bunch of issues, a bunch
Yes.
of questions in chat. So maybe you should go to her first and clear up some of
Okay.
them.
Super. Thank you, Sammy. Fire away.
Okay. So Brownie asks a bunch of questions. Was Ryan Hillegas asked by law enforcement Buting String where he was when the lights were sighted on Avery salvage yard?
I can't recall that.
That's easy.
Jeff.
He wasn't a suspect. He never felt like he got treated like a suspect. So people who get asked where they were are treated like a suspect. People who don't feel like they were treated like a suspect aren't asked those kind of questions.
Yeah, Sammy, the bizarre thing was, and he even said it, he was asked in court, well, did you have to give an alibi? And he said, no. And not only that, when they were speaking to him, when the investigators were speaking to him, they were speaking to him and Scott Blowdorn together. So he wasn't asked, nor Scott, to give an alibi. So no, I don't believe he was asked where he was when the lights were seen.
Also says here, are there any reports of a hitchhiker on 147 on the 3rd of November or someone walking along the road?
I haven't seen any reports. Panel, has anyone ever seen a report?
When it comes to Manitowoc, they lack a lot of things. They don't file reports when they're supposed to. They don't do anything. Standard protocol is not standard.
Right. Sorry, Sammy. It doesn't look too good for reports. No.
Well, if you read CASO, they do ask to generate all incidents that happen within a 2-mile radius of the Avery property.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then Brownie asks, did ST ever text Ramlo back?
He only texted that he had a headache.
Yeah.
And that he would call him back. My understanding is that he never did.
No, he did
Okay.
not.
All right. Steve Dashiell asks, who seen the guy in the waiters on and the green US? Okay, wait a minute here. I might start that over. Steve asked, seen the guy in the waiters and green SUV.
Yes, that's a good one. Panel, who can answer that one? Yes, there was. There was someone spotted in waders in the river. Big Jeff.
The turkey hunters, right?
They spotted
was
the
that-
guy or something. The turkey
Yeah,
hunters
Yes.
spotted the guy.
They
Yeah.
call into Calumet County Dispatch state driving 40 towards the West Twin River, not the East Twin River. Twin River is where Scott tatted. And they
Right.
observed a dark green pickup parked first driveway on the north side of the road, east side of the river, and there was a guy walking towards the river with waders.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So now Brownie asks, how and why do the team think the RAV got from Cuss Road to the turnaround?
Well, that's it. That's a good question. I mean, remember, it is speculative, right? It is speculative, but both the if you look at the dog tracks, if you look at what investigator Fassbender said to Stephen on November the 9th, and also to Redont, he said to both Redont and Stephen that the Toyota RAV4 came from Cuss Road Deer Camp through the quarry and in the pit area. Now, if Ramlo actually saw the Toyota RAV4 on 147, we've got an issue, because how does it get from 147 to the Avery salvage yard on the 5th? Now, Millbilly, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a report that says it was a Manitowoc, that there's a report saying that they had seized the RAV4 on the 3rd of November. Is that true?
That's correct.
Right.
Labeled
So
dark
Yeah,
green.
and on that same report,
Jeff,
Kidnapped. That's the
Kidnapped.
Manitowoc Summer.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
That's the summary report.
Page 3 of the summary report.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there's some weird things happening with that RAV. In terms of when things happen, I'm not 100% sure. But the evidence tends to suggest that since a Toyota RAV4 wasn't spotted on November the 4th when they did the flyover, when you take into account the observations done by both Stephen and Chucky, especially the one by Chucky, because those lights would have emanated around the pit area, because his driveway goes all the way down towards the back. So
Yeah, but
if he sees, sorry, Millbilly?
Stephen states himself that him and Bobby go all the way into the pit right by Chucky. He didn't actually search.
Correct.
It'd be amazing if they would have.
Correct. So they didn't go, Stephen actually said that they didn't go too far down where the pit area was. So if no RAV4 was there, it could have well been dumped on the property on Friday night, right? Because it all seems rather coincidental that you've got all the 22 calls to Ryan Hillegas. You've got the lights on the 4th, and you've got the flyover, and no one sees a Toyota RAV4 during the day, right? And also Earl and I think Robert Fabian, I think Millbilly, they were down there near the pit area firing their weapons or sighting in their guns, and none of them saw.
Stephen.
Technically, Stephen Avery was accompanied with Earl Avery. They were down by the crusher. Earl was sighting in his 30-06. They talked to Earl 4 days after this, and he can't remember that happening at all. He can only remember being in the pit on Wednesday.
Right. But it's fair to say, though, that no one who went on the Avery salvage yard just looking for car parts had spotted a Toyota RAV4. Nobody spotted one.
David Beach, Teresa Halbach's cousin, was let into the yard.
Correct.
To search.
Correct.
The same day they did the flyover. So.
Correct. Neverly, sorry, Sammy. Neverly, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I do. Mr. Siebert, who was the neighbor of Stephen and Alan Avery, he saw two vehicles come in on the 4th, and one of them being, he described it as a white Jeep, who came in and came out but on its own. So two cars came in and one came out. And he was so close to that route that he could actually see the paint chipping off the hood off of that car.
That's correct. Siebert, and we'll discuss that in our final episode, but correct. Siebert saw two vehicles enter into the Avery salvage yard, but only the white Jeep came back out, which is interesting. Big Jeff, do you have a comment?
I do. My comment is on the flyover itself, which, if you read Kathleen Zellner's most recent motion, is also she claims a Brady violation because of the lack of footage that was provided for the 4th on the flyover. That flyover, as I recall, lasted over 4 hours.
Yes,
they were over the Avery salvage yard. My recollection is on the order of 45 minutes. They didn't just search the Avery salvage yard; they searched all over the place.
Correct.
But of the 45 minutes with somebody that had a camera, we have about 3 minutes, between 3 and 4 minutes of flyover footage of the salvage yard, and that's it. And very interestingly, if you look at the flyover, if you look at the footage from the 5th, they're able to get some astoundingly good angles on the tarp.
Yes.
Right. But somehow they couldn't, manage to find any angle like that, or maybe, Wendy Baldwin, who was taking the pictures, it's total. That they had that footage. She had that camera going. Why is it that they're hiding that footage? Is it because the RAV wasn't there?
Yeah, I believe so.
Why are they hiding?
I believe so, Big Jeff, because if they took the footage and there's clear evidence that there is no RAV4 there, then that gives the game up. That gives the game up immediately. Millbilly, do you have a comment?
Well, I have a question. I don't know if us can answer. Who took the photos that were in Manitowoc's evidence? Queso photos up. When did they take them photos? Were they up in the air? We got photos of Cuss Road and Deer Camp before it's discovered.
Oh, right. Are they photographs as a result of the flyover on the 4th?
No, because Manitowoc, not Calumet. It's Manitowoc's evidence. Calumet is that first batch of Calumet photos we have, 2000. They go they take a picture of the outside of the evidence room, then them going in, and then they take pictures of all the evidence they have in Manitowoc's possession. They don't actually obtain the evidence. They just take photos.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't know. I do not know. Panel, does anyone know when those photographs were taken? Bibi.
The only thing I can say is that those are really clear, right, Millbilly? The ones at Cuss Road.
Yeah, they're
really clear. So they couldn't have came from the 4th.
They're blown up on giant poster boards.
Yeah. Yes. And the ones from the 4th are all, any footage she had was all shaky and blurry and not very clear.
No.
A far less superior camera or something, right?
Are we talking about overhead photos?
Yes.
I know that there were photos taken by the Air National Guard. I don't think we've ever gotten them.
Why? Well, somebody took photos and they're in Manitowoc's.
I'm not sure why they would have them. I do know that those have been requested for you.
I'm sure they've been denied.
Right.
But we don't have them. They've been denied.
Right. Millbilly, you're talking about those big A3 size pictures that were laid on the ground?
Yep. It was one of them leaned up against the safe.
Okay. Yep. I don't know. Again, the main problem we have, Millbilly, is chronology and time stamping of when things were done. It's very, very poorly done. Sammy, do you have another question?
Yeah, about 8 more still.
Good. Everybody's active this morning.
So you've already addressed the flyover. Brownie asked, is there any flyover footage of the turnaround? Was that specifically answered? Okay, there we go. All right. So also Brownie asked, is Ryan Hillegas related to anyone in law enforcement? And does he have any involvement in law enforcement in an official capacity? Example, volunteer deputy?
No, his father knew Peg L, though. His father had testified for the state in some recent cases.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, and didn't they call him something?
Untrained law officer.
Yes. That's the one. Yes.
Yes. I think if I could just interject just for a second there, guys, can you remember the smirk that Ken Kratz gave when he was speaking with Ryan Hillegas? And he said, "Oh, so you're an untrained police officer, but you thought the best place to check was the last place that she was seen alive." Right? And you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, this guy here, he's a prime suspect, and you're patting him on the back. It's disgusting, guys. Millbilly, do you have a comment?
Yeah, when Braun FOIA'd them dog reports, there's a 2-page report.
Yes.
30.
Okay, so Brownie is asking, is Karen Hallbach colorblind? It's a genuine question. I'm colorblind.
Uh-oh. You're not going to talk about RAV4 colors, are you? Oh, no.
They're just curious. Maybe the mama is colorblind, but I'm not sure we know that, do we?
Well, the thing is, right, all the missing posters had dark green. And the RAV4 was dark green, dark green, dark green, dark green until it was found.
Right.
Then the RAV4 transformed from dark green to bluish green.
Well,
and then Millbilly.
Actually, factually, the color isn't brought up until finds the vehicle. But if you read Queso, the officers state, I was stationed to stand by the green vehicle.
Green, correct. And I think I saw that Queso report.
And
I think he mentions it 8 times.
The next person to change the color of the car is Bobby Dassey. And the make of the car, too. They talked to him on the 5th at the checkpoint when he's trying to...
We actually don't know if Karen Hallbach was colorblind.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
What we do know is, though, there's no way in hell she could actually see her daughter's car from her house.
Because she lived like a quarter of a mile away.
It take you 5 minutes to walk from Teresa's house to her mother's.
And
the trees.
And the garage. And the garage is the other way, right?
Yes, the garage is the opposite.
Faces away from her mother's, so.
Correct.
Yeah.
Not to mention, there's a cornfield in the way, too.
Right. Yeah. Jack 61, do you have a comment?
Well, it was also reported in the news, the missing persons report. It was showed as a dark green.
Correct.
RAV.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. It was also put on the media reports as well. They gave a sample-looking car, and they said dark green. Although I must admit,
stock footage. Yeah.
Yes, stock footage. Although I must admit, the RAV does look a darker color under certain light conditions, and one can easily be fooled by potentially saying it was a dark greenish color. Although the car is definitely blue. It's not dark green. Neverly.
Yeah, in regards to the flyover, I know that the state gave to defense only 4 minutes or something like that out of 4 hours. And they were complaining about that because they were like, well, no, we want the whole footage, not just what you give us, because there's quote unquote no evidentiary value. However, I'm just wondering, kind of thinking out loud, maybe somebody knows the answer. Can Kathleen Zellner obtain the full 4 hours or whatever the footage was?
Only if it still exists. And my bet is that it's gone.
Yeah.
If you took footage, if you're Pagel and Baldwin, and you took footage and you reviewed the footage, and you got over the area where the RAV4 was meant to be, and there's clearly no RAV4 there, you don't want that knowledge out. You want it suppressed. So they edited it, and they would just argue, oh, well, the rest was just waste of time. We threw it out. Right? So it's gone. I would say it's gone.
Which is another suppression of evidence, right? And some kind of a violation.
No question. If they've got 4 hours of footage, then that's what you'd expect to hand over, the raw, unedited footage.
Exactly, for transparency purposes.
Correct. Big Jeff, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I agree with you that it's gone. And to Neverly's point, it is indeed a Brady violation listed by Kathleen Zellner in her current motion.
Correct.
So she's right. So I do have another comment, if I could slide. It's very interesting.
Yes.
So Cal reports that he sees the RAV parked nose in. So obviously, if that's the same RAV that was on the Avery salvage yard, it has that big tire cover that says RAV4 on it. So
yes.
Making it an easy car to identify.
Correct. Correct.
Interestingly, there's also somebody who is the one who went rabbit hunting with Earl on Monday. That's the day that Teresa went missing on the Avery salvage yard. Pulls up to the golf cart with Steven and whatnot.
Yes.
He later recanted seeing the RAV4 and said it wasn't that it wasn't the car. And there's a phone call between Steven and Earl where they're having one of their tips, as they often do when they speak from the jail call. And Earl says that Robert decided that it wasn't the RAV4 because it had square headlights and Toyotas have round headlights.
Right.
So unless he actually stopped the car, went around to the other side, the headlights of that car weren't facing out; they were facing the wall. So I find that a very interesting reason to recant. If Ramlo's telling the truth, the car was actually facing the other way, and Fabian only did a drive-by of it. So how did he see the head?
Yeah. Good point. Has anyone got any other comments? Tintin.
Yes, just about the evidence, how there was 4 hours of footage and they turned over 4 minutes. It just seems that they're very comfortable in doing that, as with the CD for the computer. They handed over the CD, but not the equipment or the programming to look at it.
Yes.
It's very common, simple practice for them. Not another day.
Absolutely. Correct, Tintin. And like I said, there's no way the MTSO is going to hand over any evidence that's exculpatory for Stephen Avery. So they would have previewed everything before they handed it over. Justin Hill, do you have a comment?
Actually, I had a question. Is Detective Reimacher, isn't he in narcotics?
Yes.
He now is head of the Drug Metro Unit for Manitowoc. He was a narcotics detective, and so was Wiegert.
Correct.
So that raises my question. In a missing person, what is narcotics investigators are talking about their boss?
Yes, correct.
Well, the real question is, why on the 3rd, when Angie Colburn gets notified about Teresa Hallbach missing, instead of dispatching somebody because he's the dispatch commander, he takes it upon himself to go Stephen Avery himself.
Correct.
Does not file a report, but then we hear him running Zipper's name and all kinds of other stuff. But anything to do with Stephen Avery, can't find it.
Correct. Millbilly, we know there's a lot of things which are missing. And I dare say they're gone. They're shredded or never written down, never committed to text. Jack 61.
Yeah, before we move further ahead, question about the overhead photos. There's a discovery email from Kratz to Lloyd, and he's a CD of the Air National Guard, 11805, electro-optical and color wet film cameras. That's page 12. I don't know if that's what he's looking for or not, but I do remember that.
Right. That was part of the discovery?
That's correct.
Okay. Yes, I've seen that. Yeah, there's a huge number of photographs. A lot we don't have. We don't have as yet. That's very, very interesting. All right, guys. Do we have any other questions? All right. If I could ask the panel a question, do you think Ramlo actually did see Teresa Hallbach's RAV4 on the 3rd? BB, what do you think? Do you think Ramlo saw RAV4?
Definitely. There was a bunch of people that was seeing a RAV4 at one of two turnabouts, either the official one or that little one.
Yes.
Because there's reports after report after report. So if it's not Teresa's, was somebody green or bluish RAV4 out there with possible window damage that people were seeing, right?
Okay, that's interesting.
Because there's too many reports when you take a coincidence is only a coincidence until it becomes mathematically impossible to be coincidences anymore.
Yes. Correct. Okay. Big Jeff. Thank you, BB. Big Jeff.
Yep.
Do you think Ramlo saw Teresa Hallbach's RAV4?
I think it's quite possible. I think it's an excellent question, and it's just yet another example of the tunnel vision of the MTSO and CASO that they didn't bother to properly investigate or document. And it's just another reason to believe that that Stephen did not get a fair trial. The jury was certainly not made aware of something like that. They never got to hear that evidence from somebody as convincing as Ramlo.
Yes.
I don't know. He doesn't have any reason to lie.
No.
Tunnel vision all the way.
Yes. Thank you, Big Jeff. Jack 61. What do you think?
I'm sorry, Dr. Silkman, I had to go out.
Oh, the question was, do you believe that Kevin Ramlo, actually saw Teresa Hallbach's RAV4?
I tend to believe that, yes, I do. I haven't heard anything yet that tells me that he didn't. I do know that there's a report that Colburn pulled over Ramlo, and this was a retaliatory thing from Ramlo against Colburn, but I don't know that I believe that.
Yes. Okay, interesting. Justin Hill, what do you think?
I would have to tend to believe so. I mean, he goes after watching man text padding,
Yes.
So I don't think it would be something that you would report and then, years go by and then turn around and say, "Oh yeah, I saw that. You should get a hold of something."
Yes. Yes, very, very interesting. Thank you, Justin. Kelly, what do you think? Do you think Ramlo saw the Toyota RAV4?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible he saw Teresa's RAV4 for sure.
Very interesting. And I'm not going to ask you, Kelly, whether there's one or two RAV4s, right?
Did you see how I slipped that word in Teresa's RAV4?
Yes, yes. I just want to say to the audience, Millbilly did a live discussion with Kelly, myself, and I think it was Number Plate as well, discussing about whether there was one or more RAV4s. And please check it out on Millbilly's channel. It was really, really interesting. And both Kelly and Millbilly came up with some excellent points. Thank you, Kelly. Millbilly, do you reckon Kevin Ramlo saw Teresa Horbach's RAV4?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Very interesting.
The fact that he saved the text, he said, Scott. The fact that Scott ignored the information he was giving.
Yes. Yes. Very, very interesting. I reckon Scott Tadich probably was horrified when Kevin Ramlo told him about it. Because remember, the RAV4, where it was found, was very, very close to where Scott lived. So it's very, yeah, it would have been
his backyard, basically.
Correct. Would have been very, very interesting. Yeah, and that's, of course, where Bobby Dassey allegedly was going hunting around that area there. Thank you, Millbilly. And Neverly, do you think Kevin Ramlo saw Teresa Horbach's RAV4? Okay, I'm not sure what's happening there with Neverly.
Not hearing her.
Here
okay.
I am.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes, I believe that Ramlo saw the car, and my answer is backed up by those two saved text messages to Scott Tadich when he said, call Brenda's attorney because I saw that RAV over there by the turnabout. And when Scott Tadich, as Millbilly said, and everybody knows by now, totally ignored him, most likely being horrified and not wanted it just to go away. And he finally said, yeah, I'm not feeling good, but I'll get back to you, which he never did.
He never did. No.
Yeah.
That's quite damn. But isn't it amazing how it's always the same players
always
involved?
The same players.
Always the same players. Scott Tadich, Bobby Dassey. It's very, very frightening indeed. Thank you, Neville.
Yeah. Just one more thing. That was the car was spotted 0.3 of a mile from Scott Tadich's trailer. Is that the same trailer that mysteriously disappeared?
I think his trailer did disappear.
Yeah.
I think it did.
Wonder why.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. But he buys another property on the other side of where the Toyota RAV4 was found. So he still
5.1 acre property.
Yes. And so he's still maintained within the same type of area, which is very interesting. Thank you, Neville. Tintin, do you believe Kevin Ramlo saw Teresa's Toyota RAV4?
I believe it's possible. You know, it's kind of, I'd like to lean towards yes, because he reached out more than just once to Scott.
Yes.
At the same time, if Scott didn't, reach out or contact attorneys, I wonder if Ramlo felt it was true if he tried to contact attorneys himself. I feel like that would have been the next logical step. So
yes. And apparently there weren't that many Toyota RAV4s around that particular area, so it would have stood out. He would have definitely seen it dumped there, and it would have stood out because, as Millbilly said, at the back you've got that big tire that says Toyota, and would have been fairly obvious to spot. Thank you, Tintin. Zoe, do you think Kevin Ramlo saw the RAV4, Teresa's RAV4?
How do I answer that? I mean, who's telling the truth? Who's lying? It's impossible to answer. I think he did, but who knows?
You don't know. You don't know the veracity. But it's interesting that if he did actually tell Colburn about the fact that he saw the RAV4, Colburn not reporting it is exactly what his profile is. He's done it before. Colburn has left reports go for years or not write them at all. So it's very interesting that it's the same, as Kathleen Zellner said, it's the same cop. So that's quite damning. Thank you, Zoe. Sammy, do you have an opinion? Did Kevin Ramlow see the RAV4?
Oh, I went through and gathered a couple years ago all the reports of all the witnesses that said they saw this RAV, and I never focused on one individual.
Yes.
I could, and there was, to me, no reason for any one of them to lie.
Yes.
So that's where I stood on every single one of them. Really didn't think that anyone stood to gain or lose anything by lying. Like there was nothing. They were just saying, hey.
Correct.
So for me, every one of them were legit. That's all I can say about
Interesting.
that.
Thank you, Sammy. Thank you. Millbilly, do you have any comments?
Yes, it'd be interesting if we could find out who, in fact, hung up the missing person post at the gas.
You mean at the Cenex gas station?
Because we have a dispatch call to Manitowoc. Officer named Ryan calls in because he's seen that flyer at that gas station and is inquiring, could it be Carmen Bootwall?
Right.
Now, if Ryan Hillegas is the one that hung photos up at that gas station, that puts him in the area the night the RAV4 is seized by Manitowoc.
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
Nice.
you're correct.
Yeah.
Yep, you're correct. And of course, Ryan Hillegas took charge of the search. Yeah, those 22 drop phone calls are very, very interesting, especially the timing. Very interesting. Millbilly.
Well, early in the investigation, they were relaying all the phone calls for questions to help the family directly to the Hallbach. They're the ones that transferred it over
to Ryan.
Yes. And it's
correct.
Interesting because on the 7th of November, you got dispatch taking calls, people calling in to volunteer search. They choose on when to relay the. Sometimes they tell them, "Oh, we don't know any." And other people call them like, "Oh, you can get in contact with Ryan Hillegas."
With Ryan, correct.
Give him his
That's
number.
correct. Yes. Yeah, which is rather bizarre, right? Because being an ex-boyfriend, you would have expected him to be under suspicion from day one, but they never did. The focus of the investigation. Yeah, sorry, Millbilly.
Also, the morning of the 7th, you can hear in the transmission, Calumet, Mark Wiegert state that he just was informed that Scott and Teresa had a sexual relationship, but they have yet to interview him to confirm that. Well, 2 hours later, Scott and Ryan show up on the property. They leave. They're there for about an hour. They then come back later in the afternoon for about an hour. So did they talk to him about that or not?
I don't know. It's crazy.
And
they basically,
more importantly,
yes.
Who did he hear that from?
Well, I can't answer that, Millbilly. Kelly. Thank you, Millbilly. Kelly, do you have a comment?
Kelly, do you have a comment? I was just going to throw in a little spanner in the works before.
Don't say two RAVs.
Don't say two RAVs. No, I'm not going to go into that. I was going to say, the only thing that I find a bit like, playing the devil's advocate, because that's what I do, the only thing I find a bit weird with witness like coming forward saying that they saw the RAV and stuff, a lot of them were aware that this was a case of a missing girl by now. So they're seeing this RAV that they're identifying could be this missing girl, yet nobody turned around to go back to check the car. No one went back to go, holy crap, I'm aware that this car is meant to be getting looked for. Why isn't anyone looking at it? Like, I know they're alerting authority, but no one actually stopped it and identified there could be someone hurting that car because this person's missing. I find it strange that everyone's like driving past going, oh, I identify that. I've seen on the news someone's missing. There's the car, but no one's actually stopping to go, holy crap, this is the car. This is it.
Correct.
90% of the people that probably drove past that vehicle while it was parked there thought it was somebody there fishing. The river's right there.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could add a thought too. I mean, I think that's a great thought. And I suspect, like Kevin Ramlow, for example, he saw the car first and then saw the poster second, right? And a lot of people that might have happened to, they might have seen the ad on the news and this, oh my God, I drove by a car that looked like that earlier. So they were driving around. Look what they. So we don't know the causality, if you will, the order that things happened in.
Yes.
And Ramlow said, "Oh, he probably felt like he did his due diligence by reporting it to the police. He's not
correct."
But I think it's a good question though. If anybody did see it, who felt that at the time, so, oh my God, that's the car. I don't know why they didn't stop.
Well, I mean, think about it, right? You've got the missing poster on the glass window. You've got a Manitowoc police officer inside the gas station, and Ramlow directly talks to the Manitowoc police officer and says, see that car there on that poster? It's down the road. What? I mean, what more can you say? He's telling the authority that the car's just down there. So, it's very, very interesting. And Neverly, do you have a comment?
To add to it, yes, Ramo saw the car on the 3rd. On the 4th, he was at the Senex station, and as you said, he reported to the authority. That authority was Colburn. And interestingly enough, who calls to check on the car?
Yes.
Colburn does, doesn't he?
Yes, but here's the question, right? Did Colburn spot the car on the 3rd? Did he call in the plates on the 3rd? Because there's the report. There's the report. The report saying that on the 3rd they've got it in custody.
Yes, but also,
yes,
if you look at the CAD phone calls place the 4th, we don't have any audio whatsoever.
Right.
None. And the fact there's only 79 batch calls for the entirety, from the 3rd to the 12th for Manitowoc.
Right.
Queso alone for one day, I don't even know how much for a day because it's 12 hours.
Yes.
And later in the investigation, Manitowoc dispatchers are getting tips from people. They start telling the people, oh, we're not handling the investigation. Call Calumet.
Yes.
Why not take down a report and pass it on yourself?
Yep.
They're not doing their jobs.
No, they're not. But if I could just ask, if in that report the RAV4 is already in possession on the 3rd, then when did Colburn likely call in the plates? On the 3rd or the 4th? Had to be the 3rd.
The 3rd.
The 3rd.
We have no audio for the 4th whatsoever.
Right. So when Ramlow, when Ramlow went up to Colburn and said, "I've seen that car down the road," well, potentially Colburn has already called the plates in the day prior, the same day that Ramlow saw the RAV4, right? So maybe that's why Colburn didn't write any report. But he probably was shocked to hear that a member of the public had actually seen it on the 3rd. Jack 61.
Don't forget that on around 6:45 on the 3rd, 6:45 p.m., there was an alert that went out to every patrol car in Manitowoc about Teresa, her car, everything, this missing person thing. So Colburn had already heard everything that all the other patrol heard. So he knew about the lights. He knew that license plate number.
Well, in my opinion, his defense team dropped the ball. They could have brought the dispatcher that took that phone call, asked her questions. They could have asked who entered that information to the CAD system where they entered the car and their evidence of her being kidnapped.
Yes.
But they didn't do anything.
Correct.
My question is,
correct.
Did Steven's defense team talk to Tammy Weaver at all? I guess
Not
no.
that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of, because remember when he mentioned her, the interrogation got very, very hostile. Bibi, do you have a comment?
Besides the thing with the car and the kidnap thing, wasn't there also like a killer thing that was put out like a few hours after Ebola or something? What is that called?
In person.
Yeah, that wasn't it like Steve Avery for murder or something, or homicide, or
BOLOs, be on the lookout.
Yeah, it's in the Manitowoc Summary Report. They got it labeled as a homicide.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it went out within hours of Karen calling in.
Well, that's the heading of the report. Is a homicide.
Yeah.
Correct.
It
Correct.
breaks it down. It's the whole thing. But
correct.
They leave out so many things. Retarded.
Yeah.
They don't even mention Cuss Road. But audio, we have single key Manitowoc Sheriff's Department officer at that area that morning, but not a single report.
Yep. Correct. Correct. Sammy, do we have any more questions from the audience?
Could Colburn have stopped at the gas station after he called the plates in?
Except that was on the 4th. If he called in the plates on the 3rd, then he would have been at the gas station Monday after.
Little bass backwards, maybe?
Yeah, that
Suppose
I'm not
that was
100%
just
sure.
optional.
Yeah, it could well be. Thank you, Sammy. Tintin, do you have a comment?
More of a question. Do we know at any point if Colburn was questioned about the Ramlo interaction?
No, because Ramlo
No.
Affidavit after Stevens' trial, Ramlo wasn't even a thought until after making
Correct.
murder. So until
Correct.
Zellner gets her day in court, we don't.
That's what I was just gonna say. Thank you, guys.
It may come up. It may come up in the Netflix lawsuit, so you don't know about that.
Yes.
That lawsuit's exciting. Sorry.
Yes. Correct. Correct.
He already lost it. He's already been deemed a public figure, so void your lawsuit, Colburn.
Right. Big Jeff, do you have any comments?
I was just waiting to weigh in more on the lawsuit. I agree with Millbilly that he's essentially already lost it because he has been labeled a public figure. But I don't think he's actually dropped it. But so I think he's sticking his nose in there for more public humiliation.
Yes. Yes. Jack61, do you have any comments?
I sure do. If it moves forward, the lawsuit, it's going to be, to me, it's going to be worse for Colburn than anyone else.
Correct. He don't forget, Colburn could actually be a patsy. They could throw Colburn under the bus if they want to. If push,
they can put it. They can blame everything on Jacobs.
Of course. Yes, you're right. Blame the dead man, right?
And guess who had?
Do we have Stephen in custody?
Yes. Voicemail.
Ooh.
Yeah. Do we have a body yet?
Yep. Correct. Yes. Neville, do you have?
That's the first thing Link says when he's found out. He's in Green Bay. And the first thing he says, "Well, I'm in Green Bay. I can't get there." Well, if her car's there, her body's got.
Yes, correct, correct. Yes, you're right. They do have a scapegoat if push comes to shove, which will be really, really nasty. Bibi, do you have a comment?
It's like, well, you ordered the pizza, so if the box is there, the pizza's in it.
Correct. Yeah, good point. Sammy, do you have any comments?
Well, yeah. I was looking through some of these questions, and it said, could Brownie asked, could Ryan Hillegas drive at the time, and if so, what car did he have?
He had a Toyota Corolla. It was red, and yes, he was driving it.
And it was sold later, and it had a big for sale sign where there was possibly a dent also, wasn't there?
They got a map leaned up against his car in
Oh,
photos
right.
seen outside Teresa Hallbach's house. There was damage to the driver's quarter.
Right.
Suzanne is asking, do we have cell tower records for Ryan's cell phone calls?
Well, I would say that Kathleen Zona would have them because she subpoenaed.
That's how we know about the dropped calls, right?
Right.
Yep. She knows.
The cell tower records is different than.
Oh, she's asking about his calls.
Yeah, we have his calls that she provided, that KZ provided in one of her motions, but I don't know that there's necessarily cell tower locations attached to it. I don't think there are, but I don't remember.
Well, she references a bunch of things in her motions that we have yet to see. Like she referenced Travis Grohl's affidavit he submitted to her, but I have yet to personally seen it.
Too.
She references it in her 2 briefs ago.
Right.
But I have yet to see his actual affidavit that he gave.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Jeannie Moreau is asking, did we ever get a look at the sign in and out sheet from the day cordoned off Avery salvage yard when Ryan was allowed on the property along with Radon?
They were all signing.
What was that, Mill Billy?
I said they were all there. Everything's documented.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think she was asking if they were there.
They were there. But he was signed in as Kilgus.
That means
right.
That means Fallon or whatever signed him in because he's the one that always calls him Killigus.
Yeah,
it's whoever was it was whoever was mandating point that wrote the names down. You have to all you have to do is look on the right side of the signing and out sheets. It lists the officer that was manning the checkpoint.
Right. Correct. Yeah, they were both on there. They're both on the salvage yard.
It was either Wisconsin State Patrol, Calumet, or Manitowoc that was manning checkpoints.
Okay. I'm not sure if this was answered already in y'all's conversation, but Brownie asked, when did Ryan Hillegas move into Teresa's house and where did he normally live?
The 3rd.
Yeah, he went in there fairly soon into Teresa Hallbach's home with Scott.
But his parents.
He used her cat as an excuse.
Her cat.
The
right.
only 2 people
her cat had surgery.
Right.
Only 2 people they talked to
appeared that way.
On the 3rd was Karen Hallbach, Scott Blodorn. Everybody else was talked to via phone. You even hear them say that, apparently she was in Manitowoc. One of the people she seen was Stephen Avery, her friend, and the other one's George Zipper. John Dietering's on his way to go interview him because I guess he got a lawyer.
Right.
Well,
okay. All right.
Doesn't Wiegert though? I mean, to Millbilly's point. Sorry, Sammy.
It's okay.
Doesn't Wiegert say that he picked up the phone records from Ryan? He got that printed out. Wasn't that on the 3rd?
No,
yeah, they printed.
That's yeah. You can hear Dietering request the Singular Broadband Communication phone number, and then he goes pick up some records because on the morning of the 5th, that phone call between Remaker and Remaker asked him, "Do you have the phone record?" He says yes, but John D got him. They then say, okay, I'll be here to the end of the day if you need anything, in line. A few minutes later, he calls him back, says, change the plans. Boss wants
change
you to go back over.
Oh,
That's why Remaker is the first one there, because he was already sent there. Not to mention, Pamagod calls at 6:30 in the morning, asking dispatch that she heard on the news that there'd be searches somewhere. She wants to know if she knows where they are. She says no.
Mm-hmm.
She then calls the North Line at
it's
like
late coming into
10:30.
that.
Calls in at 10:30. Calls the North Line. Gets put directly to his voicemail, Pagels. She then calls the South Line, and that's where we get the phone call of her finding the RAV on the property.
Right. Yep.
Okay. All right. Brownie also asked, do the phone mast records suggest Teresa Hallback went home after 12:44?
My opinion.
Well, that's a problem, and that's the $36 million question. If Kathleen Zona doesn't believe she had enough time to go home, and it doesn't make any sense for her to go home, drop off a piece of paper, and then go out on the photo shoots. It's just a piece of paper. So why not keep the day planner with you? Because she could have got phone calls to do hustle shots or other photo shoots, and she would have written it down on her calendar. It made no sense for her to go home with her.
Right.
But you see, here's the issue. Ryan Hillegas will not be able to explain what he's doing with the day planner if Teresa Hallback had the day planner in her RAV4, right? How did he get access to it?
Right. Well, that would be something she would need for that day. So, of course, she would have it with her.
Correct.
And that has always bothered me. Yeah. One more question.
That's why.
Mark,
hold on.
Go ahead.
That's why I want to know who was it that hung that poster up at the Senate. Because that put Ryan Hillegas in the area. He possibly could have found the RAV, and that explains why he has the planner.
Yes.
So,
does kind of implicate him.
Well,
if I could weigh in on that question as well, to specifically answer that question, do the cell tower ping records indicate that she went home? They explicitly do not.
Right.
Every tower she pings on after that 12:45 call,
Speckman.
Speckman and the woman in your presentation. That's what I was trying to think of her name.
Denise and Steve Speckman.
Yeah. All of her cell tower pings are in not even in the same location area code. If you remember my talk from last week, not even in the same location area code as her home cell, as her home towers. So she is well east of her home area,
right,
and stays well east of her home area from that, even from before that point on.
Yes, and thank you, Big Jeff. Yeah, and what Kathleen Zellner showed was that whenever she was close to going to a property to do a photo shoot, the cell, her phone calls and the cell tower ping were in close proximity to one another. So that, backing up what Big Jeff said, it tends to suggest that she did not go home after the 12:44 call with Steve Speckman, that her day planner was with her. And if that's the case, it begs the question, what's Ryan Hillegas doing with that day planner? Right? You can't explain it.
No.
Either somebody gave it or he obtained it from the RAV4.
Right. Nobody should be giving anybody anything out of that RAV if they've found it legitimately. It should have been in evidence before that, before him handing. Yeah, no.
Correct.
Mark McKay asked, has Casey asked for film footage of her roommate, which looks like he found in advertisements, is on the count of just speculation till this is proven?
Yeah, I've seen that footage. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell whether it's the RAV4 key, the spare RAV4 key. I don't know. I wish the footage was more clearer. Some people say it's a key. Some people say it's a spoon. So it's hard to tell.
Regardless, Teresa Halbach, a duct tape lanyard.
Correct. Correct.
Multiple keys. Where are the rest of her keys?
No one knows where they are.
Where's the registration for her car? It should be in the glove box.
Correct.
There, missing.
Yeah. My feeling is that someone has gone through that car. Someone's taken stuff from that vehicle.
My feeling is the car. Until KZ gets it.
Correct. Correct. Yep. There is always an issue. Bibi, do you have a comment?
Yeah. I think that looks very much like it's a key that's on the counter. And Ripper, what is his YouTube?
Ripper Jack.
Yeah. He does some very nice work on it. I've also seen somebody on, I believe, Twitter that had done some really nice work on comparing the key or spoon on the counter to the key.
Yes. Yes, it could well be a key. But
I believe it is, yeah.
As Millbilly pointed out, where are her house keys? Where's the rest of the keys?
The office keys to get into, even if you don't like your house because you live way out in the country and you live in Wisconsin, it's kind of a Wisconsin thing, even to this day.
Yes.
You still would have the key to your office that you have in Green Bay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it honestly makes no sense whatsoever. But the day planner in Ryan's hands worries me a real lot. Because remember, he associated himself with that RAV4 with a broken blinker light. And he's also got those 22 calls on the 4th, which is the same night that Chucky sees headlights near his property. So it all starts to come together quite nicely that maybe the Toyota RAV4 was driven onto the property on the night of the 4th and planted there. Jack 61, do you have any comments?
Yeah, to go back to Pam of God and the dispatch calls that Hillbilly was talking about, Pam of God testified at pretrial that she heard about the searches from her sister Betty. She said that specifically, and that was on, if I'm not mistaken, that was on the 4th. And she made those. She definitely made those statements under oath. So, okay, Pam, that's all I got. Just want to throw that in.
Right.
Well, if you look at everybody's testimony in the pre-trial and liquid trial, everybody changed their story.
They sure did.
Yes. Big Jeff, do you have a comment?
Yeah, Pam of God thinks the RAV is 2 doors at her pretrial testimony.
That's correct. That is indeed correct.
That's because you always forget a lie and you always remember the truth.
Correct.
And she clearly stated that the VIN has been tampered with, which was backed up by Remaker.
Yeah, Remaker is the one that stated.
Yes, Remaker said that the VIN was tampered with. Correct. And no one noted any blood in the Toyota RAV4 at the Avery salvage yard, which was very, very interesting. All right, guys. Millbilly, do you have a comment?
And don't remember, the officer stated that he could look through the glass and he could see a scan disc and he could read Teresa on it. But the blood?
Correct.
And when the first thing you do when you look at a car, you're going to look at the ignition.
That is correct. Yes. Yes. And also Fassbender and a couple of the other investigators and detectives had torches as well. So they would have looked inside the vehicle and no one had reported seeing any blood. And I remember when Nicole Sturm was questioned, she tried to say that it was dark, it was cloudy, they couldn't see, etc., etc. However, if you have a look at the photographs that she took, there was plenty of light, and the front glass was not tinted very much as well, and you can see straight in the vehicle. There was no blood. No blood was noted at all. Neverly, do you have a comment?
And who backed that up? That there was no blood noted? It was Teresa's own brother, Mike, who said they found her up,
yes,
and they told us there's no sign of foul play.
Correct.
And wasn't that interview even after it had gone into the crime lab?
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact date.
Pardon? Nobody?
Before.
Before.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, very interesting.
Yeah, you mean when
that interview was given the evening of the 5th.
Yes.
The garage.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Because
all right, guys.
On the 3rd, he's actually on the news in a bar handing out flyers.
Right. Neverly, do you have any more comments?
Yeah, it's a question, actually. Nobody talks about Teresa's purse. She's a 25-year-old woman. Every woman carries a purse. Do we know anything about her purse?
Where's her camera bag?
Yeah.
Where's her very expensive camera as well?
Where's her chap?
On the 9th, you have that lady calling in the Green Bay area, Pier area, taking photos of her family. She states that her son fingerprints are going to be all over her camera bag and her camera. Teresa let her son handle the camera, and he helped carry her bags to the car.
Right.
Now, she's a freelance photographer. She'd probably carry all her cameras with her when she leaves the house every day.
Yes.
Because she's taking photos of everything. Anything that she thinks interesting, she's going to stop, pull over, take. So why wouldn't she have everything with her?
Correct. And you would see...
And the emergency kit that Mr. Pierce gave it to her as a Christmas present.
Right. Yep. So if you're the killer, you definitely want to remove any form of photographic record in that vehicle, because that will give a chronology of where she's been and what photographs she's taken. You want to eliminate all of that, especially if you're
why Crack subpoenaed all film from news footage.
Yes.
Also,
correct.
Stop Netflix too.
Yes, that's very, very interesting. Tintin, thank you, Millbilly. Tintin, do you have any comments?
I did, but I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
No problems, guys. Well, look, I am a little bit conscious of the time, so can we have some final comments to the presentation? Jack 61.
It's interesting talking about Ryan Hillegas. That Kratz alibied him for the 31st. This was recently, and I mean within the last few months before he deleted his Twitter account. He gives him an alibi and out. Why would he do that?
That's bizarre. Correct. He argued that Ryan Hillegas had an alibi for that day, which is pretty bizarre. Okay.
The Bobby and Mike Osmond situation too.
Yes.
But yeah.
Correct. You mean about the comment that Stephen made about trying to get rid of a body? Yeah.
And if you listen to what Kratz says, he claims that happened on the 3rd. If you listen to Bobby Dassey's 2017 interview, he claims they heard about it the Tuesday before it was reported missing. And the investigator's like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, oh, we've seen it on the news.
Yes.
Mike Osmondson claims he was never there.
Correct.
So why?
Yeah.
Was it ignored?
Yeah. It's just another one of those mysterious things. And also, wasn't the other issue was that the date when that conversation allegedly took place Stephen had already been arrested, so he couldn't have been there.
Yeah, Mike Osmondson states that between the 31st and the 14th, the only time he was there was the 10th, and that's when that conversation took place.
Correct.
2 problems with that. Stephen's arrested on the 9th.
He's
and
already
and the whole Avery surrounding area of his property is a crime scene. They can't get on the property.
Correct. That's just another anomaly.
But Kratz manipulated those dates, and what Stephen said when Bobby testified, against his uncle, and when he said that conversation took place, he just wanted to enter in court in the documents that happened when he didn't. So another manipulation by Kratz.
Yeah,
just
but
wanted to enter
after that took place during the court and they had their press conference after, the news people were even questioning why did you use Mike Osmond's statement as Bobby saying it.
Yes.
And of course, like Kratz fashion, he doesn't answer the question directly. He rambles.
Correct.
Yeah, and neither defense nor prosecution called Mike-O to testify and to confirm that.
That's right. A lot of people were not called up that could have easily clarified a lot of the issues in the case. And they never were called up. Yeah,
like
they never were called up.
They never called Blaine.
Absolutely. Yep, they didn't ask him the appropriate questions. And yeah, no, the appropriate questions to resolve what had happened after the bus driver let them off. Ken Kratz never asked him the questions.
Neither did the defense.
No, because the defense believed the bus driver, Millbilly. That was a problem until finally the bus driver had admitted that she couldn't remember the date, right, in which she saw the female photographer. But by then it was too late, right? If they had known beforehand, they could have asked a lot of appropriate questions. We've got the benefit of hindsight now, but same with Kathleen Zellner. So she can now go back in and expose all the deficiencies and all the shenanigans that took place quite nicely.
And Zellner said instead of solving the case, the cops wanted to move the RAV onto the ASSI, the salvage yard, so they could frame Stephen. They were not bothered by solving the case. They just wanted to frame Stephen.
Correct. That is correct. Sammy, do you have any comments?
Yeah, Jinx makes a very good point that not every woman carries a purse, but I still make the question, there are things missing in this picture that should not be missing, and by now should have been found, discovered, whatever you might call it.
That's right. No, apparently there was a purse because I remember a conversation with Brendan Dassey in which he said, Stephen gave him some money from her purse, right?
Most of all, and the least deal was made of this, where was her most important possession in this career of hers. The one thing that would probably the most telling in almost every aspect of this case. Think about it. It could point to someone. Did they find out where its location is? Who has it? Who had it?
Yes.
Who's carrying it around in the trunk of their car? Whatever. Or could also provide information based on what's on it. Yeah. So much. There's just, and nobody has made a big deal about that in this case.
And if she wasn't a purse carrier, she might have stuffed stuff in her camera case and used it in place of one. And then and since Brendan never actually seen her, he may just be assuming because she's a girl that she would have a purse.
Correct.
And if she didn't carry a purse, that would further prove that right there he didn't know what really went on.
Just like
I just
you didn't
wonder
know.
where would she put her wallet? Where would she put her
In
chapstick?
her
Where would she
camera
put
case.
sunglasses?
If she's
Okay.
always carrying her camera with her, you don't want to carry 2 bags, right? When you go out somewhere to have to keep track of, you
She could have had a
downsize.
fanny pack for all we know. You know what
I
I
very
mean?
often run out of the
Yeah.
house. I very often run out of
Or
the
if
house.
she's got 2 bags with camera equipment, you're gonna fit your stuff in somewhere. You know.
Yes.
I will very
Yes.
often run out of the house with my wallet, my keys, and that's it. My phone.
That's it. Yeah, that's
My
it.
purse is the size of a wallet. It's a wallet on a hand strap.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's again one of those unknown things. Correct. Okay, guys. Does anyone have any final comments? Justin L.
I just find it fascinating how quickly investigation from missing person aside with just finding a vehicle.
Yes.
Well, that's why it's a missing person case, and they call in cadaver dogs. Then they remove her car, and then they ask the scent dogs, "Could you track to see where her car came in?" Yeah, if her car was still there.
Yes. Correct. Correct. Big Jeff, do you have any final comment?
I do, and just if we rather than focus our lens in, if we just focus it back out for a second, and say where do we think that Kathleen Zellner sits right now? I think Kathleen Zellner has to be reasonably happy with where her case sits. Because we've talked about a lot of the Brady violations today, which is information that's potentially exculpatory that was not turned over by the defense. So there are at least one that we talked about today with the footage, and there are others, as we know. And also the lack of Denny suspects, that Stephen was not allowed to present by name people who reasonably fall into the Denny category, who could have possibly have done this. And the day planner that we talked about today really throws Ryan, casts a light on him, and being an ex-boyfriend, means motive and opportunity. He has the most motive out of all the possible Denny suspects that Zellner that Zellner could name.
Yeah.
So looking at her case right now, she needs to get Stephen a new trial. What are the reasons?
No doubt.
Denny, Brady, and she's got those checked off on the list, and I think the state is gonna have a very difficult time arguing that the investigation was thorough and that the trial is fair from those perspectives. So I think Kathleen ought to be. She's done all she can, and she's done an awesome job.
Well, the mere fact that the state are delaying, that says a lot. I think the state knows they're in big trouble. I really do. But Kathleen Zellner also said she wants to find out what happened to she's really keen to find out exactly what happened to her for justice for her and her family. You know what I mean? It's good that Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey will be allowed to go home eventually, but it'll be very important to find out exactly what transpired. Just to find out what the truth of the situation was. Millbilly.
15 days.
Yes.
The state's going to do.
Yes.
What if they
ask? Yep. So fingers crossed. So, it's also good timing by us and our panel, because next week will be just about our final discussion for MAM 2. And that timing-wise will be perfect leading up to her, hopefully the state will answer appropriately and allow her to have a trial. It would be awesome. All right, guys. Do we have any final comments? Jack 61.
Ryan is in trouble.
Ryan is in trouble. I agree. Ryan is in definite big trouble. Jack 61.
Just wanted to clarify something we talked about last week with the Brady violation and the CD, the belly final report CD that Fassbender held onto instead of turning it over to Discovery. I wanted to be clear, there's also a 2,400-page report that he held onto, and I'm not entirely sure that ever got turned in at all. Just want to throw that out there and add to. That's all.
No, when the prosecution, they misled the defense that there was.
Right. Well, let's hope it can happen. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. But yes, Millbilly.
Well, the defense wasn't given lots of, or they just didn't do their job. They didn't have Calumet County Dispatch in that audio, so
yes,
that's huge right there.
Correct. Well, Kathleen Zellner is also going with the ineffective assistance of counsel. So she's basically covered all the corners.
And they both agree.
I know. I know. I don't think Strang and Buting knew the depth that the state went to. I don't think they realized. I think they were over their heads. Not having all the experts, not analyzing all the calls. It was a mammoth job. But Kathleen Zellner has done it. She's hired, I think, 10 experts to have a look at all the forensic information, and she's got it pretty well down packed. A Millbilly.
Well, in my opinion, they dropped the ball when they did the Colburn. They could have did way more to validate when that call took place, but they did nothing.
Correct. They also dropped the ball with Eisenberg as well, and also with Colhane. There are many areas where they dropped the ball. But the good thing is that Kathleen Zellner has covered those deficiencies. And I echo what Neville said. I think Ryan Hillegas potentially could be in big trouble, especially him associating himself with the RAV4. The fact that he's got no real alibi, it doesn't bode well for him. Millbilly.
You're right.
All right, guys. Are we all good? I thought tonight's podcast was excellent. We covered a lot of stuff, very controversial. The guilters have a field day with all this speculation, but I think we've covered it really well. Personally, I feel Ryan Hillegas is in deep trouble. I think also Scott Blowdorn realizes that Ryan Hillegas is in big trouble. And it's interesting that neither Scott Blowdorn or Ryan Hillegas will talk to Kathleen Zellner. That says a lot. All right, guys. Do we have any final comments? Neville.
Well, just when you mentioned Scott Blowdorn and Ryan Hillegas all together, when Kathleen Zellner's investigator went to talk to Blowdorn, Scott, and they said, well, we just want to clarify whatnot and look at somebody else. Scott Blowdorn volunteered, and he said, you mean like Ryan Hillegas? These are buddies.
Yes,
they're
correct.
buddies. And look what's
Correct.
happening.
Correct.
That's significant, if you ask me.
It is very... BB.
Oh, no.
All good? All right, guys. Well, look, I'd like to thank our audience for coming along and asking a lot of great questions, and also for the panel, for their expertise and their knowledge. That's awesome. And I'm really looking forward to next week, which should be our final, I think, a podcast for Man 2. And then I'll likely, with Neville, probably do a review of all of MAM 2, the critical pieces of information. So that will bode well with Kathleen Zellner and her motion. So the timing, it's been excellent.
All like right, to shout out Cat Gamer Girl, happy birthday.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, happy birthday, dear.
She was a Mother's Day gift, huh?
Blessing.
Awesome. And of course, all of us would like to give a big thank you to all the mothers, and happy Mother's Day. Awesome.
Enjoy your Mother's Day.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Well, yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. And this has been a production of Foul Play.